All right, guys, welcome to the Joy of Paintball. I'm like fanboying real hard right now. I've got Dan Napoli with me, and Dan Napoli, I'm just going to work backwards
Cool.
and tell me what I forgot or something maybe I just didn't know about. But you did, outside of paintball, you did 50 Summers, which was a documentary about an Omaha minor league baseball team, I believe. And
Correct.
then one that I could not find that I kind of want to watch is Winter is Coming, which is a
Oh
business
wow,
life cycle thing. Is that?
dude, that's wow. That's a deep dive. Yeah, that was. I guess it's not that old, but yeah. So, a cool, a friend of mine, cool guy here in Omaha, a guy named Joe Frost. Yeah, it's kind of like to commission was like an entrepreneurial documentary.
Okay.
There's like a cycle in business, like a seasonal cycle,
Yeah.
and Joe's an entrepreneur and was also like I think was teaching some of this theory at the time. So yeah, we kind of spotlighted like these four individuals that were kind of had gone through these different seasons.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that was kind of like a commission, sort of like yeah, like a almost like a business driven um,
Yeah. Right
almost
on.
like a branded doc would maybe be the best way to put it. Oh wow,
Yeah.
man, dude, you don't mess around with your research, Clint. I'm impressed,
Well,
man.
no, I mean, IMDb is a hell of a thing. I still think I missed some stuff though, but I'm just kind of working backwards. So those were a little more recent. The Iron Kids documentary, which I saw the promo for that during World Cup, and holy shit, that looks so good.
Oh,
And
thanks, man. We're
I had
excited about
not
it.
heard. We'll talk about that in a minute. Sorry, but then the roster series with the. Did you do X Factor and the
We
Aftershock? Both of them?
yeah, so we did like a kind of like a half a season pilot with X Factor. The first season was like more kind of like um I don't know. I guess it was like 3 episodes or something, and then we did a full season with Aftershock. That was a little bit more on the Ultimate Fighter side of the
Mm,
of the. We had that
that checks out.
fader turned up a little bit, and the
Yeah.
like Hard Knocks fader turned down a little bit, and then the season three we did Aftershock, and that was kind of like reversed,
Yeah.
um, where it was much more the Hard Knock style was up, just because Aftershock wasn't. Alex Martinez and X Factor was legitimately trying to build a practice squad to kind of keep around.
Mm-hmm.
So that season two of the roster had a little bit more of that Hard Knocks with like, or sorry, that Ultimate Fighter with like eliminations, and it was a little bit more episodic. And then
Gotcha. Okay.
Shocks was a little bit more Hard Knocks, where we were just kind of like really documenting like their preseason and then into their season a little bit more.
Nice. Nice. So then from there we go to the art of. Oh, I might have my timeline mixed up, but the Artifact series, which was
Yeah.
that
So
about players
so
or teams? I feel like a lot of impact was in that.
So it was mostly about teams, and they kind of like now, man. It's no worries. So the Artifact series kind of umbrellaed, like it crossed paths. Um,
Gotcha.
we did 4 or 5 releases in the Artifact series. We did a couple seasons of the roster. We came back and kind of did I think 2 more artifacts,
Gotcha.
um,
Gotcha.
which would have been so like 15 featuring Dynasty
Yeah.
was an Artifact release. Holy Grail featuring Impact. I
Gotcha.
guess
Okay.
technically Best Kids in Texas would have been part of the Artifact series. We're kind of starting to we're trying to start our own 30 for 30 with
Yeah.
under the Eclipse umbrella of really kind of doing these like standalone like sports films about and they usually were team centric.
Yeah. Dude. Okay. I got to remember that 30 for 30. I'm going to touch on that
Oh, it's all good, man.
later. uh, but okay. And then, so got the Artifact series. And then I think this may have been, so those were, I guess, would you call them either like a series or a short format? And then
So almost all the artifacts um, were long form, other
okay.
than so night
What's
at
the
least
distinguisher on that? I don't know, like a short form
so
versus.
man, that's a great question. I mean, that to get to in the weeds, it gets a little. Um, I mean, like a lot of film festivals will say anything over under 20 or under 10 is short form.
Okay.
Feature length is typically 90 minutes
Gotcha.
or full length, which would be TV 1 hour is usually 44, 48 minutes because you've got the commercial spots that are in it.
Yeah.
So the majority of the artifacts are feature length, are over an hour.
Gotcha.
I guess that's maybe the main delineation. Over an hour would be feature length. The very first season of Artifact, were actually, though, in that digital short space, we did a series of, there was maybe 5 of them, a series of just 10-minute shorts. And I don't know, man, that was maybe 2009. And then we started doing feature lengths after that.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got it says your first feature length was the Vicious Excessive Story, 2010.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah,
busy, man.
Rivalry. we put out a lot. Yeah, man, put out a lot of stuff for about 10, 15 years, pretty consistently, I guess I should say.
And then that's not even like, I'm not even done. Like, you were co-creator on Jawbreaker series. Shout out.
Dude, I love that you still have that DVD. That's amazing.
It was. I got a lot to say about that.
Yeah,
and then,
Brad.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying, Brad Mon and I. That was our project. We conceived that. We conceived that driving from SC Village up to Brad's parents' house in North California after filming Avalanche 101 and going up to go do post on it. And both coming from me more the music side, Brad legit like skated in Vista with like like the Hensley, like Matt Hensley, not Danny Way, but his older brother Damon Way.
Gosh.
So we both kind of came to that where we were like, oh man, I wish paintball had something kind of like a Vans 411. If you're half your audience probably doesn't know what the hell I'm talking about. So there used to be, right?
No, I think so. I think they got it. That's
if you don't know, Vans 411 used to be like a video style magazine that was at one point on VHS and then later on like DVD. Yeah. Didn't really have something like that for paintball at the time. So yeah, we kind of conceived and tried that.
Yeah. I don't know what that would look like it'd be just because it's so wide reaching as far as like the types of people, but we'll jump into that in a minute. What else do I got? Sorry. I feel like I heard somewhere you were kind of like I don't know the technical term, maybe like a PA or something for like serial killers or the music dude.
So I was the music supervisor on Push.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that was my first, and I always tell those stories to be very clear, which I now know sitting in the other seat, you're like, oh, that's awesome. I'm the music supervisor. I'm going to pick all the music. Like, no, you're not, bro. The director's going to pick the music. You're going to go help the director get the songs cleared and like maybe make a couple suggestions. Pat was always incredibly gracious with me, as was Brian, Patrick Spohr and Brian Benini. Those are Patrick's choices. I always want to take, because people are like, oh, the music's amazing in Push. I'm like, it is. I didn't pick those. Don't give me any credit. That's all Pat.
You just got them. You didn't. Okay.
I just went through the process of clearance. I think Less Than Jake and AFI are the two that Pat graciously, not that he didn't like those bands or those songs either, but after me being like, well, what about these guys? Well, what about these guys? He maybe was like, all right, dude. We'll check out these two. But yeah, so that was my first. And then in between there somewhere too, I don't know, is Avalanche 101 in the list anywhere?
No, I'm not aware of this.
So, dude, also a very interesting, a very fun relic from like 2001. As writer producer, created it with Brad. This is at the height of kind of Team Avalanche. This is before Dynasty Dynamics.
Is this Yellow Avalanche?
This is Yellow Avalanche, dude. Okay. Very good. Yeah. We did. This is still Rocky LaSoya. We did an instructional video called Avalanche 101.
Oh my
That was
gosh,
like a Tony Hawk trick tip style.
dude!
Um, and that
I
was
gotta find this.
super fun.
I
God,
just
dude.
thinking about it, like they're playing with. Let's see, they were still playing with Angels at this point, right?
Oh yeah, dude. This is
And
like, hey, let me grab. Dude, I can see it on my shelf. Do you want me to grab it?
yeah, man, yeah.
I guess this is super paintball
Oh
relevant too,
shit,
as the dark stuff
VHS,
is starting to come back. So VHS.
nice.
Um,
And then I
and
can't.
I
Oh,
can't. Let me see if I'm
who's
trying to get
playing
all this
guitar
stuff
down
in
there?
focus. That's Hunter from AFI. Had AFI like super music tied in. Had like AFI H2O, Bouncing Souls, The Explosion.
Gosh,
Also had this very cool insert that
dude,
the Paint magazine guys did. That's Todd Martinez.
dude, that's so dope.
Um,
Man, I
this
miss
like
tangible things.
right, the physical are good, dude. That's
Yeah,
why I love everything Hermeses is doing. Everything you're doing with them, with the posters and the paintings are so fucking cool. I love. Uh,
dude,
can we
it's
swear on
fine.
here? Do I
Yeah,
have to touch?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
sweet.
No.
I love seeing the tactile things come back that you can touch
Yeah, man, it's
and
so
whatnot.
much. Like, I think we're seeing the starts of a resurgence for those things, just like
Yeah, man.
collectibles in general. And
I think it's interesting, man, because I think there's a whole, which also in a way ties into answering one of your questions, but I think there's just like a whole generation of folks that like that's really foreign to, and maybe it feels like they've missed out. And I, from my perspective, I think they have on being able to have convenience is great, but
yeah, yeah,
being able to touch something is pretty cool.
and like even I remember going, golly, so let's just jump into music because that's
Do it, man.
so like I remember as a kid, going to Sam Goody or Blockbuster Music or just any of these, even freaking like they were like offshoot like CD resale stores, and
Yeah.
you'd go and they'd have a Hot Topic too. They had a cool sort of setup where you just go listen to the CD and they had headphones set up and you're like shoulder to shoulder with someone,
Yeah.
just like, oh yeah, this is cool, and you can like talk to them, and I miss
So,
that
dude,
stuff.
to answer one of your first questions, which by the way, man, tip of the cap, that was really cool. I don't typically let anybody see any questions beforehand.
Oh, okay.
I really liked getting a couple of those, your three kind of standard, because I was like, oh man, I got to think about these really quick.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
so to your point,
Thanks,
to
man.
answer your first question, I
Okay.
think the first piece, and dude, I'm very pop culture. Grew up super blue collar, so I'm not going to reference any like
It's
Rembrandts or
all
Da Vinci's. That's not where my art stuff
no,
comes from.
it's all
Um,
good.
like for me, like probably earliest stuff I really remember picking up on is like Drew Struzan, Raiders of the Lost Ark or Star Wars posters. But
Okay.
what made me, I think your question is like, was the first piece of art that made you like, like
Yeah,
catch your
I had
breath or
like
whatever?
yeah.
And dude, it's a guy named Derek Riggs, and he
Okay.
used to do all of the Iron Maiden records, like the metal band,
Okay.
and it created Eddie and like. So to your point, and I'm like 7, 8, 9-year-old kid going into like a Sam Goody in a mall, and like I mean the artwork's crazy. It's like I mean my parents certainly won't let me buy it, but I mean it's like almost scary, but also very like I wanted to see more. Like I remember letting it like literally stopping, and
Oh
one of the
yeah.
albums called Power Slave. So all the Iron Maiden stuff. There's this Eddie, for those not familiar. There's this Eddie figure character, and then he's like worked in modifications on every single album. And I loved Egyptian stuff when I was a little kid. And so
Yeah.
Power Slave was this like double gatefold thing with these two like Egyptian pharaohs on it, and then like Eddie worked into it, and like so album artwork, man, for me was the first thing that I remember just being like, oh, like kind of
So,
stopping me.
at risk of being rude, was it CD albums or vinyl?
No, bro, it's fine. It's
Okay.
albums. It's
Okay, sweet. Um
it's right in that tail. I mean, I always say like so like I'm excuse me. I'm born in the 70s. I kind of grew up in the 80s and went to high school and college in the 90s.
Okay.
So yeah, man, 7, 8 years old. I mean, it's cassette tapes, and then
Oh
like the big
yeah.
old bins of like looking at records.
Yeah. I mean, even like the cassette tapes, I have some experience with. My main experience with cassette tape was a Teddy Ruxpin, uh, little teddy bear toys.
Dude, I remember
but
Teddy Ruxpin. Yeah.
CDs for sure. Like getting the album and just unfolding it, like you were doing just now. Like
Oh yeah.
I love that those are coming back. I
The
have a buddy
liner
who's like
notes.
huge in vinyl, and I'm kind of getting into it. I believe that albums, at least until recently, were designed to be listened to like straight through, at least once in its life, you know?
Yeah.
And I loved that about CDs, and you could just go straight through. And oh man,
I got really back into vinyl maybe 5 years ago. And the thing that I liked about it, dude, like you just kind of hit on that. It like I listen to music all the time and digital stuff too. You know, I'm streaming stuff in my headphones while I'm doing the dishes. The things that's great about vinyl, and again, I think that has a broader context in art, is you kind of have to sit there and listen to it because you got to flip the record. It's
yeah,
not a good thing to use because you can't do the dishes for very long, or you can't like also work on your laptop for all that long because you got to get your ass up, walk over to the record player, flip it over.
yeah,
So I really liked it to get more in kind of not being like a singles monkey and like sitting down being like, okay, like I'm going to put on this album and I'm going to like be present
yeah,
in this artwork,
yeah.
even though it's the music, and like really like experience it. Because
No,
I
dude.
even had become very like you know like iPod Shuffle or Spotify random stream random my whole catalog, and I really enjoyed having it let me become a lot more like focused in how I listen to stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's not. I'm not trying to shit on people who like just have their own mixes or whatever, but I do think uh, you got to give some time to the band. I like that. Like you have to be present to really like soak in what's going on. And
Yeah,
like I think especially with vinyl because it's kind of perfect if you ask me. Like having like 3 or 4 tracks and then you got to flip it and
yeah, and you got to stay engaged, and then as like the artist, right? And then dude, there used to be a whole art to sequencing,
oh yeah,
like what track goes where and when, and it's like, and you got to have enough of a banger that you make them want to get up and flip it over and then go back to the and then to even to go to the other side, or you're
dang
not
man.
just be like,
That's
I'm gonna
probably
go.
yeah. That's probably why albums were like it was easier to listen to them straight through for the most part.
Yeah,
Like because
again, but you got to have that stuff, and then you got to have some singles on the second side. You got to have some killers on the second side.
yeah,
But yeah, and mixes have been around forever. I mean, right? They used to be mixtapes, and they're great, man. They serve a great purpose. One of the best ways to get exposed to new music, right, is to be able to
yeah.
put on a
Oh
stream.
hell
But
yeah,
then it's just take that next dive, like grab that album by somebody and just like listen to it.
yeah. And then man, okay. So I
I'm
think
sorry, we're
did you?
bouncing all over the place, Clint.
It's all
Is that all
good,
right?
dude. It's all good. Yeah. But something popped into my mind. Did you do a doc on a record store?
So I'm in development on a record store documentary. Yeah,
That's cool.
that's
I
that's
think.
going to be super fun. That will probably be my next project after Iron Kids
Okay.
um, gets finished. So you probably won't see that one for a while. But that's probably what comes after Iron Kids for me.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So that could be 2 questions, but I do have a question sort of about the whole documentary process because I think it's so foreign to a lot of people. Like I'm sure you're getting some flack from folks about when's Iron Kids coming out? When's Iron Kids coming out? And I just can you give us like an idea of typically how long a documentary is, start to finish, like just as
Yeah,
far as like.
for sure, man.
Yeah,
And I have to say, I mean, credit to all and much appreciation to like, the community and all the paintball fans out there. People have actually been pretty cool about their like. There's not too many mad like when is this doc coming
yeah,
out? There's more like anxious, like come on, man.
yeah,
Man, and it's kind of all over the board, but like, dude, typically speaking, like a cycle on a documentary is gonna be anywhere from 3 to 7 or 8 years. I mean,
golly,
depending on some. So like Momentum Generation, which is one of my favorite documentaries. This is a surf doc that's on HBO on like this transcendent 90s movement of Kelly Slater and Rob Machado and stuff. I mean, they were in production on that for like 7 or 8 years. And a lot kind of depends, right? Like something like Drive to Survive, which is a docu-series, but that's very in the moment. They're not taking 7 or 8 years on.
yeah,
They're documenting something that's going on, right? Like
yeah.
if
It's
you're gonna
like
do
present. It's not history so
right,
much.
right,
Yeah,
you're not doing something like very deep and layered and like um historical, or also where you on the flip side of it where you don't know where the end is. So I also have an MMA documentary that we've been working on and off on since 2016. As a matter of fact, I think a guy, our subject, Rafian Stotz, I think he fights, depending on when this comes out, in a couple days.
oh
I think he
wow,
fights again
okay,
on November 17th for like Bellator. We've been in and out of production on that since 2016. Um, because there's not really a season, so you don't really know where the end to that is. So you could be in production on a doc if you're really following where the story evolves itself, and then that's where you also see odd things like Exit Through the Gift Shop, like that Banksy documentary thing, which started as one thing and
hmm.
ended up as something totally different.
I have a theory about that one, but
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
that's.
dude, lay it on me. What
I
is
think
it?
it's all like kind of a hoax.
I mean, it's
Like,
Banksy. That's
yeah,
logical,
I think Mr. Brainwash is like developed by him. Like it might even be him, and he's just like, I'm gonna play this chump
I
and
mean,
and
dude, that's not an unreasonable theory. That's very
like
plausible,
he
given.
that one. It's a good one for sure, but it I don't know. Like, why does he know this guy? That like I know they explain like how they kind of get
Oh yeah,
connected, but anyways,
no, but dude, there's a couple. There's another really. There's a documentary I love. That's a couple years old now called "You Can't Kill David Arquette." And anybody who knows me well knows, like, I'm a huge pro wrestling fan,
yeah.
huge.
Oh, hang on.
Um,
Ready to Rumble. That was it,
right,
right?
dude.
That
And
was
they
it.
talk
That
about
was
that was his that was his 2 seconds into. And the thing about his doc that's done recently is apparently it started out to be like a reality show
hmm.
or a reality doc and follow where you start to get into that weird, because you could say, I don't want to get too far on this tangent, but on some level, the Kardashians is a documentary, right? There's
Yeah,
in some of that.
documenting
So
something.
the David Arquette film ended up being like a doc, like a legitimate doc, but there were these weird pieces inside of it, kind of like you're talking about in some of the Banksy stuff, that almost feels like it was left over from when they were doing it like reality style, where like a
Oh,
producer is going to be like, hey dude, like go run up to that guy that's like, in Mexico, that's like lucha wrestling in traffic, and go do this.
yeah,
And it still had those weird elements, and it kind of jumps out at you where you're like, oh, this scene feels
yeah,
orchestrated, but then the
yeah,
rest of it doesn't. So I definitely think that Exit Through the Gift Shop has a little bit of that vibe
yeah.
in it here or there.
A little produced, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, anywhere from 3 to 8 years. I mean, I haven't had finished a doc that's gone 8 years. We're on 3 here on Iron Kids, probably by the time it's done. And you're also not necessarily working on that every day in that time
Yeah.
period.
Got to make money at some point in there. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's just even, docs are funded. I mean, it's just like not financially possible, to pay somebody a day rate
yeah,
or a salary for 3 years in that. Some of the stuff I've done in the past, like we've talked about, because it's been event or a season or short driven, like, so a lot of the artifacts for the Eclipse stuff has a shorter turnaround time than that, maybe more like 6 months or maybe more like a year.
okay.
But as I've kind of like evolved and leveled up to try to tell larger, more complex stories, how long I'm in production on it, gets longer and longer.
Gotcha. Okay. Sort of segueing a little bit. I don't know, just to all the listeners out there, I don't know, like, you, sir, are like quite impactful on a lot of the music that we've been exposed to. And this is something, it's more, I just want to thank you, really. I was telling my buddy the other day, everyone has friends who, and you're probably this guy for everyone, but like that one friend who's like, oh, check out this band. Oh, check out this band, and they like, and you guys, I just, everyone in the, whoever's listening, tell these friends thank you, because I realized the other day, like, music is so important to us. We, like, we'll experience something to a certain song, and then 15 years later, we'll hear the song and go right back to that, whatever that moment is. And, like, that's a really great gift. I realized it. And I told my buddy thanks, but also like you thanks, because, pretty much every song on here, like, was like a gift. Like, I discovered Taking Back Sunday. Oh my gosh. Like the Cutlet or Cute Without the E.
Yeah.
And Hot Water Music. You've introduced me to them twice now. And then Wonder Years from, that wasn't on Jawbreaker, but like all these bands, like, obviously, yes, thank you to the bands, but like the word of mouth and like the people just like choosing to throw these things out there is so special. So thank you.
Yeah, man, you're very welcome, dude. It's humbling. I love it. It's probably so silly and not the first thing most directors would say, but like, honestly, I mean, for me, it's literally the most rewarding thing is like for somebody to be like, oh man, I think like to do what you just did there. Oh, thank you. Like, I found that band. I mean, like Ronnie Dizon will talk to me about finding Taking Back Sunday in Jawbreaker, and even I mean, it's one of my favorite little memes or whatever you see on social that like, people who show you new music are important, right?
They really are. Like,
yeah, and those people same to me. I mean, dude, we were in. I feel something like we were. I was working the Orlando event for NXL. I was doing producing some pre-tape stuff, and I remember, and still to this day, like Pat Sporer was showing me a music video he shot, and he was like, "Oh yeah, it's like, yada yada," and like, let's, and folks from Let's Active. And like, he could tell the look in my eye, like I didn't know who that was. And so after the embarrassment of Pat dressing, no, he didn't dress me. I'm kidding. He's just like, you don't know Less Active? But like, I immediately go back to the hotel and download it. It's very much like REM, like early 80s Athens, like true kind of college rock sound. It was like, oh, this is fucking awesome. I love this. And so, here I am in my 40s and still somebody's like, hey man, like check this out. Or like, my daughter who's 21 will, send stuff up the pipeline to me. And I'm like, oh yeah, dude, this is great. It's a really, film and music is like such a film is such a powerful medium to like put music into and to expose people. I mean, I remember, dude, like that Avalanche 101 tape, like back in the day, I was working at Warp Sports when that came out. And I mean, I remember it was really cool. you really felt like we were starting to become I don't know, whatever, a thing, or like a community, or you were starting to
Yeah.
get a scene, because you would, I mean, I remember seeing orders pack out that would be like, here's an Angel, here's a WDP Air, here's like Hot Water Music CD, because like at Warped we used to stock all the soundtrack from Push,
Oh man,
and so people would like put, and you would see those go in
dude.
there, and then you would just think to yourself like, man, that's really cool. Like that
Yeah,
definitely would not probably have happened if it wasn't for this music in this film. But like now, this is really cool. This paintball player is getting like, you know, his rad gun and like his music that kind of, you know, has connected
yeah,
with him.
yeah. Like, I come from skate culture, uh, later than Brad's skate culture, but
Right.
but uh, music was huge, and the punk rock was. I was a what we call a fruit booter. I did not skateboard, but that's we embraced that name. We're just like whatever. So punk rock was a huge part of it, but also like there had to be a special like groove to it, and
Right.
you know finding that right song to like skate to, and that would meet the energy needed to like navigate a park or whatever, and also just like I don't know,
I mean,
music is
that's
so
where I would
powerful.
come. I would buy skate. I mean, I would buy skate and surf and snowboard DVDs. It's like, again, like for the bands, like again,
Yeah,
early mid '90s stuff for me. I mean, that's how you would find, and it's like, oh, like, you know, what, like, oh my God, they used this Misfit song for this part. And I remember like, oh God, who was it? I think it was one of the flip videos. It might have been Jeff Rowley,
okay,
but somebody right around the time of Fight Club use Where's My Mind by the Pixies, which was already, I mean, the Pixies had already been long
shit.
broken up and like had
Yeah,
started getting that back circulated. And like, yeah, there was all of that. And I always try to bring some of that consideration, like
hmm,
when we're putting songs places. You know,
I
now
feel it,
it's
man.
even,
Like
well,
I,
it's nice to hear.
I think like especially like I think about everyone. It's iconic. The Wonder Years song at the end of uh, Be Kit.
Oh, at the end of
Uh,
Best Kids.
yeah, and also your use of the hot water music song. What? Which one was it? Golly, it's, the name's escaping me.
In the
Never
in
going back.
oh yeah.
Like those were they complemented the each other. The film and the music complemented each other within that. So
Dude, I truly appreciate your comment about Wonder Years, who I love. But like, I mean, that song, um, even though it maybe feels a little odd because Archie's on
yeah,
Dynasty now, but we'll leave that away because these things are moment in
yeah,
times. They're snapshots in time. I mean, and I love that. And the origin. So the last song in the film Best Kids in Texas is called the Living Room Song
hmm,
by the Wonder Years. It's like a massive B cut. They hardly ever play it.
yeah, yeah.
I had seen them play Lincoln, Nebraska, probably 3 years before we did Best Kids,
Dang.
and they did like a fan thing for like pick five songs, and they played that, which they were like, oh, we never play that, and I had never heard it before. I was like, holy
Oh
shit, this,
man.
I love this. I was like, somewhere, sometime, this is gonna fit. And I just, with like Archie sentiment and Colt's sentiment in the film, and really especially at that time, one of the underpinnings is from coming out of Texas is that, you know, X Factor was kind of competing and having success in the face of um, being under budgeted,
Yeah,
right? And I just like the sentiment of that song. I just thought so, I hope so nicely summed up like the vibe and the attitude of Colt and Alex and Archie and all of the guys.
yeah.
Um,
And I mean, it has, yeah,
so
it everything about it. Like just the, I don't want to say angst, the attitude, not that it's a bad attitude, but just the dare I say vibe of the song.
Yeah.
And the I don't know, is it choral, but it's a thing where it's like sort of this group like singing.
Oh yeah, dude.
Like it's just
This
so
like,
powerful.
and that's something I've always loved in punk rock is the kind of like gang vocals, like the harmonies thing kind of going.
Mm-hmm.
But I love it's like it's acoustic. And it's the video for it, the band's video for it is awesome. They're just like jamming in their living room, and like more and more people keep coming in, and it's
Man.
it's like a low key party.
Yeah.
You know, there's like 10, 15 people, guys and their girlfriends, and everybody starts singing.
So
And yeah, you know, just the lyric, because it's like I'm trying to sing it quick in my head without actually singing it because I can't sing.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have trouble sleeping. Is that I thought, you know, expresses that, and no one can take that away from me in that we're completely comfortable with where we're coming from on this.
Yeah.
Like we make no qualms and is kind of I thought our subjects in the films is kind of the X Factor's perspective. We know who we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not, you know, good, bad, or indifferent. Like I'm not, you know, passing judgment or statement on that, right? But they're not a team that is consistently going to have 4 or 5 free agent pickups one year.
Yeah.
And all of those guys are going to be gone. You know, part of the joke in the film is Billy being, you know, from Connecticut / Texas.
Yeah.
And so I just thought that song really encapsulated, you know, the energy of that team and hopefully the film. So
I think there's a reason. I mean, I've even heard there's another podcast that I'm going to mess up. It's got Mafia and From the Sidelines, I think is what it's called.
Oh yeah, his Patreon cast, I think.
Yeah, they were geeking out on it too. They were just like, man,
no way.
Wonder Years, like I could,
That's so cool. I didn't know that. Oh, that's awesome.
So,
Mafia, I owe you one.
Yeah,
dude.
they.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah,
man.
they're cool dudes too. I love all the stuff that's popping up with paintball and.
Yeah, man, this is it's really cool to like from where I'm sitting, you know, and it's kind of. So I went to work, you know, like I mentioned earlier, you know, I worked the first event this year in Orlando producing some stuff for Go Sports.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first event that I've been at in 7 years.
Oh, wow.
It's the first time I walked in a field in 7 years. So, you know, I'm not completely out of it. I'm obviously doing Iron Kids and Best Kids, but I'm kind of a little bit removed. And so from where I'm sitting, it's been really cool to watch. It seems like there's this like creative resurgence from everything from Moffat to like the stuff that you're doing, and just all of these different things popping up. And I mean, it's really cool to see.
Yeah, I think, you know, like I kind of got to credit like Hormesis. Like they're like taking these chances on things, and people are seeing it and like, okay, let's do that. And they're not the only ones, but for sure. But like you know, it's Alex and Ollie, like you know. So.
Dude, I can't say enough about those dudes. Obviously, yes. I mean, you know, full disclosure, they're behind the Iron Kids doc stuff, but man, the thing about them is like they just do things for the right reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just because they think it's cool or that it needs to be done. And then they kind of, and hope that like, you know, I don't know, I'm not in their business meetings with them, but you know, as we talk about Iron Kids, or the things you feel like is that at the end of the day, you hope the business side of stuff takes care of it yourself. But like, they're not guys. I mean, that much I can tell you for sure. They are not guys that are going to sit there and like look at the algorithm or like look at a board meeting and, you know, a bunch of charts and graphs and be like, well, I think, you know, statistically speaking, the correct time to do an Iron Kids documentary would be like, that's not how those dudes work. And I think when you come from a genuine place like that, like, it's pretty cool. Hopefully you succeed more times than then you don't.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess it's the paintball stuff, but like their timing seems to be
Yeah.
like everything they touch is gold.
But they think it's
Like,
cool. Like,
yeah.
dude, how did you start doing? You probably already talked about it on the podcast. I don't know so you got on my radar from Alex. He's just like, oh, dude, there's this guy out of Texas doing these cool. Because I was like, what the hell is it? I think one of the first ones I asked him, because I know Alex Frazee is a very talented
Yeah.
Artist and illustrator himself. I was like, Alex, did you do these? He's like, no, man. There's this dude out of Texas. Like, how did you start?
Well, I am an art teacher. I teach a high school art, and I've been in it all my life. And in college, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I would just sort of like doodle. Like, I played for my college team, and I played for sort of a local team that was run by a shop, and I'd do like team names or whatever. The typical procrastinating things that you would do. And eventually in painting, it became a subject of some of my paintings. Like I did this dope, I wish I still had it, this weird like split, it was supposed to be like a split screen assignment for painting, and I'd just been gifted a Shocker NXT, and did all these cool different angles and this painting of it, and I just gave it to some dude because
oh no way,
yeah,
dude.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind who I gave it to. Like that's the thing.
Okay.
A lot of times I'll end up giving stuff away. It's not so much that I gave it to him; it's that I didn't take a picture of it. So
right, man.
But like, I'll do that all the time. Like, it gives me more satisfaction to give. Sometimes, at some point, I'm looking at my kids and like, okay, I'll charge someone for this one, but.
Right,
but there's some, like I've got one, I don't know if you got one. I've got, it's hidden, but I've got like a Tim, golly.
Oh, you got a Tim Montrose?
Yeah, Tim Montrose one, just sort of let's see if I can move stuff around.
Oh, is that one? Okay,
it's kind of way down there. Yeah. But I haven't, like, I feel guilty, like, trying to sell that, so I got to figure out the approach for that. But I don't want to hang on to these things. And, well, I feel like.
Dude, you know what you should do with that? Is, just look at me. Something to think about.
Send it to Omaha for some certain someone. Yeah.
No, where's his statue? Where'd they put his statue at? What field?
I think it's
isn't it
a Florida field. Probably not Tiki's.
Okay. I thought it was his home field in
Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Somewhere like that. Yeah.
Maybe it would be cool to donate it to. The thing with any of that stuff though, right? I'm sure you want to make sure if you do donate it, it's somebody who isn't going to turn around and flip it.
Yeah. So agreed. I've thought about that. I don't know who to reach out to, and I'm not sure I'll figure it out. I kind of, I want to either, if I ever cross paths with like Ryan Moorhead or Jason Edwards, and just be like, here, do what you want with it. Like, I feel like a teammate.
Totally.
They'll do the right
another
thing.
Dude.
Yeah.
Another dude I know, I could message him right now and take it off your hands. Would be Sam. Would be Sam Monville. Dude, would absolutely adore.
Only if he comes on the show. That dude.
Oh, dude, I'll try to make that happen. Sam's such a cool fucking cat.
He does. He seems like a really cool guy.
He is such a good dude.
Yeah.
When we get off, I will message him and be like, hey man, I got a fucking proposition for you, Sam.
That'd be dope.
Yeah. He's so much fun, dude. I'm a huge fan.
Sweet. Let's make that happen. But yeah, so anyway, getting into paintball, like I just sort of, I started, like I make money as being an art teacher, but you're not really making art that much as an art teacher, and I think I'm more of an artist than an art teacher. And so I would always like play the starving artist role and go like work in my garage too late on things that I was trying to play the algorithm, like I'd go to a few festivals and sell a bunch of brightly colored paintings of animals and stuff like that. And everything I make, I want, like to an extent, I think looks cool. But even those, it was just like, this is not fulfilling. Painting a bunch
Would
of
you
elves.
ever get frustrated, like, and would you also have like a little lack of, would you have a little lack of success at that as well?
At
That
the
was not your, so you're like, oh, I'm going to do this thing that says that chase the algorithm. Like, oh, I'm supposed to do bright colored animals. And that's like, all right, but it's a living, and you go and you don't sell as much as you would. Or does it actually, or would it actually be like, okay, well, at least, hey,
it's
I'm going to pay the mortgage this month.
yeah, I never made that much money from it, but it was like I'd pay the car bill maybe, on a good thing.
That's good, man.
So I thought of it as practice, and there's sort of a, you do this thing to pay the bills, or so that you can do this thing to, I forget what the saying is, but to like fulfill yourself, I guess.
We'd say, I mean, dude, we still practice this a little bit, is for production, it's the phrase is like, one for the meal, one for the real.
Okay, I like that.
Is in the kind of like, but I mean, man, my experience though, and again, this is my experience, is it's like double, like whammy.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been successful. Like when I try to be, it's like, oh, like, what everybody says is really good on YouTube right now is this thing. And it's like, I would do the thing that I don't even necessarily want to do.
Yeah.
But I'm like, well, this is what's happening right now. And I'm like, well, this is just, whatever. It did track. It did. So, okay, I didn't make what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't make any money at it, and nobody saw it.
Yeah.
Fucking great.
Yeah. So, yeah. That's, so essentially it's like things that I just wasn't proud of. And I jumped in, I made a painting of Shorty from Revo, Sean Saucedo. And he's local. Like I used to hang with him in college. Yeah. So I'd seen that was in semi-pro at the time, and there's a photographer out here named Yosh. His name's Josh, but I think he just goes by Yosh. Everyone calls him Yosh. And he takes the way he captures light, paintball fit in general, the light out there is amazing. I don't know what it is, but like everything is just,
that place looks really cool. I'd like to get down there sometime.
You need to, I have a note about it, but for you. Okay. But anyway, so I did that, and I kind of like, man, I felt really cool about that, and I could attach stories to it and meaning to it, and I was like, that's cool. And then I thought about it more like, I had a gap in my paintball life to where from like 2010 till 2017 maybe. Okay. And jump back in, and it's like, oh, Frazier's still playing, like all these guys are still playing, like right. The world needs to know who these people are, and I can't, like, this is probably the main way I can contribute to that. And so, and even like behind me, I don't know if you can see it, but the Jerry, things like that.
Yeah,
like,
dude.
I didn't know about him. After I got the assignment, I saw like a few of his videos. I saw the Virtue did a documentary, and he was a big part of that for when he played for Damage. Like for like,
oh, that's awesome. Oh, is that maybe something? Did Kakuza do that for them?
I'd have to go look.
I don't know if I've seen that. I have no worries. I'll have to check.
Shamefully, I'm horrible at reading credits, so.
That's why I stick, dude. That's the other reason I use the Wonder Years. Man, you got to stick a gold song, and I always have this argument. Seriously though, I have this debate sometimes with producers or executive producers. They're like, we're going to spend how much to license a song for the credits? I was like, yeah, but like, look at films.
Yeah.
Great songs are in the credits, or nobody fucking stays.
Yeah.
It's like, right. I mean, even popcorn movies, like, Avengers puts the, freaking, oh God, I always forget the name of the Chris Cornell, Tom Morello project, not Rage Against the Machine, but whatever they were called. They put that massive track in the credits, so like people will like stay engaged. Like, so yeah, don't feel bad, man. I
But yeah, so that's kind of like, I got into that. I made a zine and sent it to Alex and them, and I can't remember if I'd done any work for them before that, but I think it was kind of like in line with what they were doing.
Man, that stuff is cool. Just like seeing so much. It reminds me in a different in a different way. Now it's crossing mediums, which is pretty cool.
Mhm.
But like when I came into paintball in '99, and so a little bit after, especially really like kind of 2000 to 2003 ish. You had, dude, there was like 5 different video production companies at the same time, and everybody was kind of doing something like a little bit different, and you had a whole bunch of magazines,
Mhm.
but they had different, you had a
Oh,
couple
yeah.
very corporate magazines. You had Roman and the Faceful guys doing this like really beautiful like glossy
Yeah.
polished style.
Dude.
You had Paint doing like a much more organic doc follow, and like
Yeah.
we didn't have all the other mediums coming in. Like, now you guys have a bunch of different, stuff coming in. And I think I think it's really cool that people can, paintball fans and paintball players can connect to the sport they love in like a bunch of different ways, because, like you said, you're from skate culture. Like that's commonplace, and kind of the same way. Like,
Yeah.
that's commonplace in so many other sports and endeavors, and for whatever reason, paintball hasn't always had that, or hasn't always had it in the volume.
Yeah, for such a
have.
like like the amount of technology that goes into paintball stuff, you'd figure there'd be a lot more nerds that were like willing to do the sort of zine and like, be in touch with people. And for whatever reason, there's been a gap there. Maybe it's just that it's already happening naturally. Like you can go play paintball at that field, and most people are pretty cool. The douchebaggery aspect of paintball is kind of fallen mostly by the wayside.
That's great.
Yeah. So, yeah, man. So it's funny you said that you mentioned like the different entities. I had this thought. I was like just scrolling through, sort of looking at like your history, and I noticed on your website all the awards that like the Toronto something or other, the baseball award for, I didn't read the actual awards, but anyway, you got a lot of them. So
it's not Sundance or Tribeca or anything that's like super meaningful. So it's cool, man.
Hey,
don't
well,
worry. Yeah,
yeah,
they're all second, third tier festivals.
Hey, man.
They're all for, I think 1 or 2 of them is for Best Kids in Texas, but the rest of them are for the baseball documentary.
Okay. So, well, still, you got them. So good for you. Good on you.
Thank you.
I don't know. I just sort of like every now and then I'll venture down like these big ideas, and I think about like I would love to see a paintball film festival. I think you should. I'm tasking you with putting that on just to see, because I think you do something like that, and hopefully originality comes out of it. Like you do long format like documentaries, and even like I can kind of build on what We Could Be a Dynasty, the Iron Kids documentary, like what the story of that could be. And I'd just love to see like what other people come up with, like how many different kinds of stories could be told. Like Jerry's story, holy shit, that'd be cool. This other guy, I did a poster for Chris Alsner. Oh, that dude is a fucking champ.
I don't know if I know that.
So I'm going to say the wrong thing. When he plays out in the woods, he's got like this tank chair that he sits in, like wheelchair that he'll play in. But when he plays on tournament fields, he's got an agreement with NXL, like he can go place his gun at a bunker, and then he does this like tactical crawl to the bunker.
I think I saw something.
But like just like overcoming stuff, and like the culture, like it's. I mean, I was in tears doing this, like doing the poster, just sort of researching it. Like this guy's a fucking legend, and that was probably like a highlight for me. Like, doing a Frazee poster or Rao, like those are great. Those are cool. But this one, like I discovered someone who's inspirational for me, and I got to they didn't print those posters,
awesome.
but his story, and like all these other like things, like, or even like
Dude,
the failed stories, like, yeah.
I love your man. That's a really cool. I mean, kudos. You should do it, dude. I'll help you. It's your idea, man.
No.
But I like, because, dude, here's the thing that I like about it, about that. Now, one thing, it's really difficult because, not to get too into this tangent, but just as fields have changed and so whatnot, like it's very hard to have some diversity because we're all shooting the same thing.
Yeah.
Or like, again, I mean, I haven't stepped on a field in 7 years, but like, you really started to get where, Moffat and Vrabel and Ryguy, I'm sure they talk about this stuff more and more, but, I mean, I know the stuff we're doing with, helping Miko and Pat with some of the Hermesi stuff is to be able to be at practice so that you can really be original and manipulate stuff. Because what's starting to happen is like the way field stuff goes is, I mean, there's 3 shots for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's these 3 crevices that you can be in, and then it gets very difficult. Like all the stuff starts to look the same.
Yeah.
But it would be interesting because if you had that Northern Light of a film festival, you can already think of it if it's like, well, we're not going to, you wouldn't select, film festivals usually like to have diversity to them.
Yeah.
So you're not going to like select like 5 films that are all the same, like, well, I did Damage. Like, well, I'm doing Revo. Like,
Yeah.
all right, well, that's it the same, if your structure is like prelims, semis, finals, how the season goes.
Yeah.
But man, if you put that carrot of like a paintball film festival, it's like, do you start getting stories that are very off? They're just great stories and they're paintball, but they're not necessarily, man, that's really interesting, Clint.
Do it, man. Do it. I got ideas.
I'm gonna marinate on that, dude. That's neat, man.
I've got, that's the curse of being an art teacher. Like, I will get through a day and be like, man, I chunked out 24 solid ideas. And with high school kids, I have introductory level, so it's like some of them will actually like once 1 out of every 50 ideas will get pursued, and the other ones just sort of like, oh yeah, that'd be cool. And but no, dude, I'd love to organize that. Any sort of like creative, like just getting people together and seeing what happens. Like, that's what I love.
We might jam on that.
Yeah.
And so that's what I mean. I'm volunteering them like live on a podcast. But like, I think Hermesi's, like, Alex and those guys are going to make a decision. Like, that's fucking cool. Like, okay, well, what would it take? And then would be like, okay, awesome. Or like, oh, holy, no.
Yeah.
But I think there's other folks that are like, right, like, what's the worst phrase in the world that we all hate? Like, what's the ROI? Like, oh, for God's sakes, man.
Yeah.
And those dudes don't operate like that, right?
Yeah.
Like, what's the experience? It's funny. He's also kind of flipped his position, but like all of these marketing bros that love Gary V. But one of Gary V's like more widely like spun statements is like, what's the ROI of your mom?
Yeah.
how do you put an ROI value on your, so there's some things that just us as human beings are worthwhile.
Yeah.
And we need, and they make us better. They make our lives better. They make us better to one another. I think that's what art's supposed to be. Right.
Yeah.
And that like everything can't be this like algorithm driven ROI on stuff, or you'll never do anything.
Yeah. Well, cool. So we're going to do a film festival. Sweet. I'm glad we landed on that.
It sounds fun. It sounds fun.
So I geek out on it, like organizing tournaments in college, and now I organize like art competitions within our district, and all these ideas, like even just talking about it, like thinking about like, dude, we could do it. And if like, we get 5 or 20 solid or even just mediocre things, then we can get judges from outside the industry. like
think about a World Cup that has a film every night.
Yeah, like
and an early out. So, that's always, and you always know that thing, right? Like that's always becomes the issues with, or what started to be the issues with player parties. Although watching it from home, it looks like Hermesis like maybe solved that. That Oasis thing looked pretty cool.
It sure did.
But it's hard like to have late night stuff because you're like, well, dude, we were at the field late. Now it's like I got to go back and watch webcast. And then if you got to go early the next day, but like, dude, that'd be kind of interesting if you had a different film like every night, like the first couple nights of something at like World Cup. Like, I don't know, that could be fun.
Yeah. Sweet. Make it happen, Alex.
I like that, dude. No. I like that idea. No. Poor Alex. He's like, fuck these guys. Yeah. What are you talking
about? Why does everyone expect me to do stuff?
Yeah. And there's there are a lot of folks that do believe in doing stuff, for
I think any paintball
the
team
greater
owner,
good of paintball,
like if you're a team owner, like
you
don't like absolutely. Money, like
yeah. I mean, Leds and the Eclipse guys, funded artifact stuff and all of that content for so long because they truly believed it was really important that stuff was documented. Some of that stuff we created was during a time period where there was no webcast. There was a couple weird years where it was open before Paintball Sports Promotions picked it back up. I can't remember what their Ghost Sports predecessor was called, but
PD Access.
And so, yes, thank you. Yeah. And so, and even when PB Access was going, it really was just the live cast. Mm-hmm. So Eclipse and a lot of folks have carried stuff through at that time period. But yeah, dude, I've never thought about that, Clint. That's a very cool idea, man.
I think we could do it, but the one thing is Maddie has to narrate every single video in there.
He'd probably be down. He's at least got to be your master of ceremony.
Yes, yeah.
The thing is, if Maddie narrates all of them, though, now they all feel the same.
Yeah. He's done a lot.
I would want to see Maddie. I want to see Matt make one.
Dude, yeah, like.
He's a gifted writer, dude. People
really
forget
is.
About that. He has a literature degree.
Yeah, no, I remember reading his stuff. Like, I've got a few magazines still around where some of his articles are in there, and like, yeah, I miss writing about paintball, dude. Like,
what if somebody actually did a scripted that wasn't garbage? A scripted paintball.
Oh yeah,
short that wasn't garbage. Yeah. That would be amazing.
That'd be dope. Things that like. Yeah, that would be amazing. I think about like I remember playing and during it was 12-5. It wasn't 10 or 15, but rate of fire was 12-5. And I remember being like having someone. I was Division 4, so they weren't even shooting by me. They were just nailing my bunker. But I remember that sound, and like I don't know how you communicate that. I want like Oppenheimer-esque. Like audio, people say like the video was great on that, which sure, but the audio in that I think was outstanding. And
dude, I just read it.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I totally interrupted you. I'm so sorry.
No, I just like I don't think anyone's captured the audio in a high quality like audio yet of like being in a bunker and paintballs going by you, hitting the bunker, and just sort of like it's. I don't know what you would describe it as, but it just sort of like you are accepting the chaos. Like you're just like, okay.
Yeah. Dude, sound design. I was just reading a thing the other day. I think it was Spielberg or somebody was like, yeah, it's audio is 50% of your film. It's so and you're top notch. And Oppenheimer did amazing stuff where, again, as the big visual dance is going on, all the audio sucked out of the room.
Yeah,
like that's on purpose.
Oh,
like yeah, it'd be neat to see sound design like elevate. Like I can put myself in the moment that you were just describing.
Yeah,
using with the audio of being in that bunker. Like yeah, man. I think maybe some of that stuff is the next level. It's just it's very difficult Um, I th- I was going to say, I don't know that snowboarding is it's certainly not a one-to-one analogy, but there's maybe some to borrow from it. Is that like snowboarding films really started taking a leap
Mm-hmm.
when they went, Art of Flight, and I know there's stuff before that too, but when they started to like go out like some backwoods and like they're doing a run like really specifically for the film, and they're kind of getting away from anything else that would be like around it.
Yeah.
Because the challenge with paintball is, right, we have to remember there's teams are trying to win.
Yeah.
There's actually a competition going on in an environment, and a tournament and some competitive integrity, and so there's only so much stuff that you can, like I remember when I was out in Orlando, one of the things I was helping produce was, and kudos to Darren, who did a great job this year, but the robot cam that they were messing with, and like people were getting, and it wasn't as bad as it used to be, but it also was funny too. Like one of the operators that was not a paintball person was just like bird dogging people.
Oh.
And people were complaining, and which you totally understand. And then I understand too. I think somebody was like, look, if and there's both sides to that. Somebody's like, hey, if you want to open it up and expand what this is, then we've got to become accustomed to kind of some of these things. And some other people, of course, too, are like, I don't give a shit about that. I'm trying to win my paintball game.
Yeah.
But it was pretty funny because I would see some guy just go.
And like bumping into
he was like, yeah, man,
right here.
Let's not do that. Like, let's kind of like, maybe can we subtly, like, can we just like,
let's throw a different lens on,
pan a little bit instead of Ashley driving the robot like right at the guy.
Oh man.
I've been lucky enough to see some of the stuff that Miko was doing this year. I think is going to really, really blow people away. And again, like you were saying earlier, it's that's what's so cool about creativity, right? Is it all builds off itself, right? Mm-hmm. There is without X, there is no Y, right? Without I might be one of the few people my age that's like, I love the Ramones and Blink-182.
Yeah. Without
the Ramones, there is no Blink-182. Yeah. Without the Descendants in between those two, there is none of those. They all build off themselves. Most of the generation, or a couple generations are spurned out of what, Patrick Sporer did. It'd be really interesting if Miko's stuff does some of what I think it is going to do. What will that create in the generation? Because it's like, okay, right, the generation after him, it's like skateboarding. Like, have you seen the Bones Brigade documentary?
No.
Dude, do yourself a favor.
The Dogtown documentary, not the. I saw both of them, but
not the scripted.
but saw that documentary. What is it?
Watch.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was saying, watch the Bones Brigade doc. It's fantastic. But they start getting into, talking to Mike McGill and creating the twist and this idea that like once somebody sees, oh, we can do that, and then it all spurns, it takes, the gap from somebody to, it's like from here to when the trick happens and one guy can do it or girl,
mm-hmm.
and then the gaps between when other people can do it and then the next trick, it just starts building.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope creatively you start to see some of that, momentum build off itself.
Oh, that's exciting. That's real exciting. Yeah, I hope you're right. I hope to see some more stuff. Like, I think we're sort of at that, like, there's so many people competing at that same level for reels and whatnot on or shorts on YouTube. And I've talked to Verb a few times, and he's got some ideas cooking. So I think I hope we're kind of going to start to see like some different things popping up.
Man, I think competition is good. Mm-hmm. Even in art, it's not that there's like a trophy, but when you're in a competitive environment with people that you respect, and I think you see this in all levels and in all different kinds of music, where bands are one-upping one another, or again, not from a a negative or a toxic place,
Yeah.
but and it's like, oh man, like they did that, like we want to be better, and then it inspires you to do something else, and you kind of keep going.
Yeah.
It's hard to be really great in a vacuum.
You're right.
But I think
dude.
if you've got a lot of people around you doing really cool things, and then, again, you have a bunch of those things kind of build off one another. So I hope that's where all that stuff goes.
It's hard to be really great in a vacuum. Dan Napoli.
Put an asterisk, make sure there's a small chance I might have.
No, it's all you.
I might be borrowing.
You get all the credit.
I might be borrowing it from Matt Marshall. Matty, if it is, dude, I tried to give you.
Hey,
I think that's something you can.
That leads into another question, because we borrow, we steal, and we stand on the shoulders of giants. Who are the giants that you are standing on? Who inspired you? Who did you build from?
Oh man, I mean, definitely Pat Sporer. It's just to some degree, and within paintball. I mean, Brad Mon has been one of my best friends and mentors for 20 some odd years now. I mean, when we start to get outside of that, Stacy Peralta.
Yeah, that's who I was like, what is his name? His documentary on the Crips and the Bloods. Did you see that?
No.
I'm pretty sure he did a doc on the Crips and the Bloods.
Oh my God, dude. Well, I'm definitely going to need to check that out. Yeah. I mean, and I'm trying to think there would be some different, directors. We kind of touched on it earlier, that 30 for 30. And I mean, dude, and you referenced it earlier. Have you ever heard of Steve Sable? Do you know who that is?
I don't.
I wouldn't expect that you would. He's been deceased now a while, maybe 5 or 10 years. Maybe it's not been that long. But he is, he was NFL Films.
Okay.
Like his dad founded it, and then Steve Sabo as a producer and just like ran it for years. I mean, that is one of my earliest memories of wanting to do stuff like this. It's like, so back in the 80s, with ESPN, so go further back than that, sorry, since the start of the Super Bowl, anybody who's a football fan, if you ever hear there's that cliche that the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field, that's from NFL Films. They used to make a mini documentary every year about the NFL championship and then later the Super Bowl, when there were Super Bowls. And what ESPN would do in the 80s, and these would all be about hour docs, is leading up to the Super Bowl, the night before, they would run a marathon. It would run all night long. I would watch it with my dad, fall asleep, wake up in the morning, watch the other ones until we would watch the Super Bowls. And those things super inspired me to create some of the way I would do stuff. I mean, Taylor Steele, and those are doc directors a little wider than that, again, just because of kind of my age and coming up in the 90s and this renaissance in American indie film. Kevin Smith, Robert Rodriguez, Richard Linklater, all of these guys, your Texas boys, that were you didn't need to be, because dude, I'm from nothing. I'm from nothing and of significance and of importance. I have no legacy. I mean, my parents are rad people. They're super salt of the earth, super encouraging of art, but not art people themselves. They didn't take me to galleries. I'm not a person of in any of those kinds of. And so growing up, it was directors, they grow on trees in Hollywood, right? I didn't understand, Brad Pitt's from fucking Kansas and moves.
Yeah.
But you started to see all of these people from nowhere, Kevin Smith from New Jersey, the Texas boys, that you didn't have to be this kind of in this special bubble, and you could still make movies and tell stories. And that was super inspirational, even though there's been no Snoogie Booges in any of my docs, and I don't know that there will be. I do love me some Kevin Smith, and he was super inspiring.
I saw, I have a fun Kevin Smith story, or a Mallrats story. That was
I
My
love
let's
Mallrats.
see, I went to see that in theaters with my older brother and my mom, and I
And
was
you're
yeah. I don't think she knew what she was getting into.
poor lady.
My brother was
What a
like,
saint.
"Let's go! I want to see this! I want to see this!" And so she did, and we did not finish that movie in the theater. We
I'm not surprised. You were one of the only 6 people that saw. I love, Kevin always tells. And dude, the thing, like Mallrats is actually a cool thing to learn at and look at. So he's an indie darling off Clerks, gets $6 million, which is like
that's
studio minimum to do Mallrats.
yeah,
It fucking tanks in the theater.
yeah,
But for years, it was one of Universal's like #1 selling DVDs.
yeah,
It just connected with like the people that wanted to see it
mm-hmm.
were not old enough to go to the
Yeah.
theater
That's why
without their mom or like marching. I mean, dude, that was the thing I remember on like repeat in dorms like all the time and
yeah,
something like that. So I think there's some lessons to be learned in that too. That it's like, and that's just like a silly comedy.
mm-hmm.
But like, sometimes it takes a minute to find your audience. It doesn't necessarily mean that what you created isn't valid.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, man, I feel like I've run the ringer. I don't want to keep you
Cool,
too
man.
long. What did I forget? First,
Is there anything Iron Kids
first,
that you wanted to ask?
yes, I'll bring that up. But first punk rock song that you remember hearing, or
Man.
where were you? How's that?
So it depends, right? What technically qualifies. Um, the music video for Rock the Casbah from The Clash is probably the first thing like I remember.
Okay.
I don't know that I really clicked with it being punk. Um, the Ramones video. Blink just did the parody of it for So I Want to Be Sedated, right? Where they're sitting in the
okay, like in a van or whatever.
No, they're just at the breakfast table.
Okay.
Everybody's gonna murder me for fucking not remembering this.
No, you're good.
I kind of remember that one. I mean, if you consider Nirvana punk, I was 15 when, and so I'm growing up in everything's butt rock, man.
Yeah.
Everything is Rat and Poison and Winger and Warrant, and then just like a punch in the face, man. I mean, that Samuel Bear video, I remember the first time I saw it was getting up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, go work out at school. I was a baseball player.
Yeah.
And it was just like, what the fuck is this? But this feels everything that I feel like as a 15-year-old. It's like kind of chill, but it's also kind of angry.
Is that the one where they were like acting like a 50s band or whatever?
No. So that's the same record. Is that In Bloom? The Samuel Bear Teen Spirit video is the Anarchy cheerleaders, and like we had a riot breakout at our pep rally in a similar. So that's the one. It's all smoky. It's fucking crazy ass janitor. You have the Anarchy cheerleader. You're just like, the first song though that really like clicked into the whole like world of punk and whatever, California skate punk, like all that stuff like that was like Disconnected by the band Face to Face.
Okay.
It just felt so alive, and that's one of those songs like you were talking about earlier, Clint, that has the like so much that the 80s 90s punk stuff started to have those harmonies and like the layered background stuff like that, and it just like, and that is really what kind of clicked into me then there's this whole underground world that really came from.
Yeah.
And that's when I really kind of started to identify with kind of that punk rock world.
That's awesome. It's such a cool community to like I don't know, find, I guess might be the right one. Like stumble on. I don't know that anyone's like I mean, I don't this day and age maybe, but like I don't know anyone that was like punk rock. I wonder what that is. I'm gonna go. Like it's someone playing it and someone. I mean, I think that's any music genre too. Hardcore. That was what hardcore was for me. Like.
Yeah, it just depends on everybody's entryway to it's so interesting. It's like, I mean, so I was an only child. I didn't have the cool older sister or older brother that came back from college, and I got to look at their music and that kind of stuff like that. Face to face, we ran into. So there's 91X is a radio station out of San Diego. I think it's still out of San Diego. Maybe San Diego's 93. But anyways, they in the late 90s they started like franchising these out. Mm-hmm. And like Denver had one for the summer, and it was the last summer I was ever home in between my freshman and sophomore year of college, and just got like a ton of hearing all of that kind of stuff, like Face to Face on the radio, Bad Religion on the radio, like all of this kind of stuff.
Were you DJing during this?
No, this is just
because there was
that for me came afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah. There was that, and I was a record store clerk, man.
Oh man, that's sweet. I worked at a Blockbuster, so
nice. Hey man, dude, that was. I mean, have you seen The Last Blockbuster?
I have. Yeah, that was a pretty great documentary.
Did you enjoy it?
Did you interview that guy?
I did. I mean, with the least of our colleagues, I'd consider Taylor a friend. We've maybe talked about some projects together. He's a wonderful dude.
Yeah, that was. He tugged on all the heartstrings with that one. Like every step of the way, I was like, "Yep, I remember that." Like he approached it from employees, which is odd. Like how many people have worked at Blockbuster, and from the customers and everything. Like that was a great film.
Yeah, he's a really. I enjoy his films. He's working on a Lost documentary right now.
Lost, like
about the TV show,
huh?
And about the fandom around that.
Okay,
so.
Yeah, that's gonna score. Yeah. Like, I know, like I got like 6 friends that are just.
Dude, they raised like 10 times their goal on Indiegogo for it or something like that. So yeah, there's a big audience out there for it.
Goodness. All right, man. I got so much I could talk to you about, but I don't wanna take up too much of your time. So.
We'll give you. We'll run 5 more minutes.
Okay,
we'll run 5 more minutes to let you get into a few things that you
want. I want you to just make a Field of Dreams video.
In 5 minutes,
I
gotta have a little more time.
No, but I want you you need to go see. You need to go play a Mech X Ball event at PB Fit to see the culture. Okay. It is a whole culture of its own. PB Fit, like. It is super cool. Like, okay. You should do it. Just like Dylan. I don't know if you know Dylan. I don't know his last name.
Of course. Yeah.
He plays them every now and then.
Fout, right?
Fout. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Dylan's wonderful.
Like, just go check it out. Like, they are
okay,
and they're cool. Like, I don't know if you could like just tag along with like a Dynasty practice next year or something. But
interesting.
Like,
okay,
their story's really cool. So there's that.
I'll put that on my radar.
Check that off with the film festival, and I'm just planning out your next 20 years for you. All right.
Hey, man, I love it. Let's work.
Yeah. But then, okay, another potential one or another connection that I thought. So the 30 for 30s. I've watched a few of them. One that stood out was the Miracle on Ice. Did you see that one?
Yes, we're talking about the 1980 U.S. hockey team one?
Where correct? It's from the Russian perspective, though.
Yes, that was so good.
That was like, I wanted to go to Russia. Like I was like ready to like be like part of the motherland. Like it was so good. And so the original coach and the like philosophy of Russia at that time was so intriguing. And I wonder, like, there's a connection there with Russian Legion too. I think like there's aspects of the game that they did very much the same thing, like just totally redid the paintball.
Yeah,
and I don't know. That's just me nerding out.
No, dude, that's interesting. Man, we may have even talked about some stuff like that. The thing that's fascinating about the Miracle on Ice is like it's told from the loser's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
There's such a great lesson to take from that. Everybody, like not everybody, but like a lot of times exec stuff is it's like, oh, they didn't win. We can't do anything.
Yeah.
Like that whole film is told from the loser's perspective, not just of the game, but culturally
Yeah.
of the Cold War.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about that. The one thing I would only say about the Russian Legion, especially with the way the world is right now, Miracle on Ice was made about 25 years after it happened.
Fair point.
So maybe 25 years from now, some things will chill out in the broader sense. Not that the Russian Legion folks aren't wonderful themselves, but like maybe Virtue. Somebody maybe tried to do something a long time ago. Maybe I'm just making that up, but that's a really interesting. I think what you really have to do to make it worthwhile is kind of what you hit on is like, how does paintball intersect with what is Russian culture?
Mm-hmm.
Like if it's just telling the team, the story of the team, like once they get here to compete in a tournament, except they're talking in Russian. I mean, that's neat, but that's kind of like gimmicky. Cause like, I think on some level, like once you get here, yeah, there's some variance, right? But like whether it's the PB Fit guys or Russian Legion, the experience of going through an NXL event's similar.
Yeah, yeah.
How does paintball cross with them when they go back to, and especially like, I don't know if it's true, but there's a lot of folklore that, the origins of Russian Legion are totally tied to like ex-KGB guys.
Yeah,
and, like,
I've heard
all
that
kinds
too.
of, like,
yeah,
cool shit.
Or
that would be a very fun one.
Yeah. Well,
don't know how true that is, but if it is, I would.
It'd just be fun to open with that, and then
it'd
just
be
like,
super fun.
No, it's just some dude that really liked paintball.
Yeah.
Well, man, that is what I got. Cool. You have blessed us with just so much.
Oh, my pleasure, man.
Info today, and also just your career in general. Like, you've definitely like shaped a lot of people's just how we view the sport, how we, the music we listen to in the sport, and how we see it. Like, I don't know.
That's really cool, man. If that's the case, it's definitely an honor to be in that position, and I hope I did. If that's the case, I also hope the folks we covered feel that we did right by them in being people's window into like this world, or their connection into this world of paintball. But it's very, very humbled to hear anybody say that, man. So yeah, dude, it was a pleasure coming on. Super fun.
Thank you very much.
All right, brother. Yeah. Well, dude, thank you so much. If you need anything else on this, let me know. Didn't really, which is fine. I don't have a ton to say, but like, didn't really say much about Iron Kids. I don't know if there's.
We could do that right now if you want. I haven't stopped recording, so yeah.
Yeah, I noticed. Yeah, do it.
All right, so I'm going to take this opportunity. Give me all the details about the Iron Kids. Everything you're not allowed to say.
So everything I'm not allowed to say. Ooh, I don't know about that. Here is let's start with what I am allowed to say. It's definitely going to be a full length feature.
Sweet.
We're definitely so we're talking in that 2-hour neighborhood. We've got around more than 50, but less than 80 hours of interviews is what I have so far. We're probably going to do a small amount of pickup interviews in 2024. We have a ton of archival footage, stuff that hasn't been seen. The amount of what I really forgot about. So we went into the project very fearful, in the way of fearful of a lack of footage.
Okay.
Because we're like, hey, if you really think about, like, once they become Dynasty, yes. But coming up as kids, and then as Iron Kids, like 98, 99, 2000 isn't even, you really just have War Pig and Trauma Head, and they didn't really do West Coast stuff. We were worried about footage. What I forgot about is the America's Funniest Home Videos generation, which those guys are from. So some of the guys have a little bit more. If you were of a certain level of means during the mid or late 90s, people had home video cameras. Mm-hmm. So there's way more footage than I thought we would have access. It's not professionally shot. It's what we would call found footage. Mm-hmm. But it's like fantastic, dude. So I got a box of stuff. I mean, I spent a large part of this year just kind of getting my head around that. The other thing I do want to say about Iron Kids stuff, right, is, we could be a dynasty, the story of the Iron Kids. It's not called We Are a Dynasty whooping everybody's ass. So I just always want to make people like, yes, the ascension into Dynasty is part of the movie, but I have had some comments a couple times. People be like, that's crazy, man. How are you going to get 25 years of the team? I'm like, because I'm not touching, 17 of those years or something like that. That's for another project, for another, this is centered on, the origin story and the early ascension into Dynasty. Nice, but this is not, this is not the definitive Dynasty documentary.
Yeah, that'll come. I think that'll come in like 20
they gotta
years.
Stop first,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
they gotta stop first. But yeah, I mean, because people heard part of it. I mean, so, some of the folks we got to interview, there's a Dave Youngblood interview.
Really?
Which is a huge, dude. So in the teaser that played during World Cup, there's that line, the guy that says the biggest mistake Shane and I ever made was, that's Dave Youngblood. Dang. And he's talking about Shaner. He's talking about Shane Pisana, and they're talking about, and Dave was cool. Dave was so lovely to us. He was amazingly.
I've heard a lot of great things about him.
Yeah. He was very cool to us. We talked to Chuck Hench.
Okay.
Who's a pivotal figure in this. There's a lot of stuff here. There's going to be a significant thread of also seeing what tournament paintball was like, in that, also the trajectory of tournament paintball from maybe the mid 90s to the early 2000s.
Sweet.
Yeah, dude. So it is a big thing to get my arms around. Chris Haas has helped me with some story elements of it. I guess that'll be my big reveal for you. Chris, former publisher of Paint Magazine.
Okay. Yeah.
Great writer. Just a gifted publisher and creative person. He spent a week out here with me, and we're doing writer's room stuff and going through the boards and going through story beats and that kind of stuff. I think if I say anything else, Alex will come hurt me.
Okay.
So I think that's about the most I could do, unless you have a specific question I can answer.
Dang, no, man. Like, I'm ready to just like take it in, like, when it gets here, and I process things real slow, so I'm probably gonna have to watch it like 15 times just to like
love it, man.
Like really soak all of it in. So I'm excited. It's
gonna be a dense movie, man.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a very dense. There's gonna be a lot of information and a lot of things happening, in a short period of time.
I cannot wait. Yeah, I got to make it to.
Man, we'll try not to let you down.
I got to make it to Cup so I can watch the review or the preview with the whatever, so I can watch it. Premiere. That's the word.
The thing that's interesting about that, so World Cup 2024 is the 25th anniversary of the Iron Kids. It's the 25th anniversary of the last World Cup they played together. It's also the 25th. It's also my 25th anniversary. World Cup 1999 was my very first
dude,
World Cup. So there's a lot of
that's
interesting
huge.
symmetry.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it kind of works out that way. So we'll do what we can do.
Sweet, man. Dude, thank you again just for everything.
Yeah, it's super fun, man. Anytime. And so anytime. I mean, always honored and humbled that anybody that watches our stuff, you know, or wants to talk about anything that we made, man. I'm always available.
Awesome. Many thanks. All
All
right,
right.
Dan, have a great night and can't wait to see all the great stuff coming out.